Let me tell you something, and I need you to really listen, because what happened in São Paulo, Brazil was not just a concert. It was not just a show. It was not just some artist stepping on a stage and running through a set list. What happened that night was something else entirely, something that people who were there will be telling their grandkids about decades from now, something that shook the ground and rattled the chest and made even the most stone-faced person in that crowd forget everything they were worried about and just lose themselves completely in the moment. Bad Bunny hit São Paulo and the city was never going to be the same again. Shh, turn the volume up, but keep it low. This is Rap Deepest Secrets, the one place the labels can't control, exposing the codes, the cover-ups, the real cost of fame. Help us to monetization by subscribing. Now, back to the video. Now, you have to understand the context first, because without the context, you are missing everything. Bad Bunny is not just a reggaeton artist. He is not just a Latin trap guy or a Puerto Rican singer who got lucky with a few hits. This man is a phenomenon. He's a cultural force. He has broken records that people thought could never be broken, topped charts in countries where Spanish is not even the primary language, and built a fan base so loyal and so passionate that they do not just follow his music, they follow his every move, his every mood, his every word. So when the news dropped that he was bringing his tour to Brazil, to São Paulo specifically, the energy in that city started building immediately. People were not just excited, they were electric. São Paulo is its own kind of beast, and if you know anything about that city, you already understand what that means. It is one of the biggest cities in the entire world. Massive, overwhelming, a city that has seen everything and been through everything and does not impress easily. The crowd there is not the type to just politely applaud and sway back and forth. When São Paulo shows up for something, they show up with everything they have. They come loud, they come emotional, they come ready to feel something real. And on this particular night, with Bad Bunny standing on that stage under those lights, they were prepared to give every single piece of themselves to that moment. The show started and it was already clear that this was going to be different. The production was insane, the kind of setup that makes your jaw drop before a single note has even played. Lights designed to make you feel like you are inside another world entirely. A sound system so powerful you could feel every beat in your chest like a second heartbeat. Visuals on screens so large they filled your entire field of vision no matter where you were standing. Bad Bunny has always understood that a concert is not just about the songs, it's about the experience. It's about making people feel transported. And from the first moment he walked out, that crowd in São Paulo confirmed they had been transported somewhere they never wanted to leave. He moved through the setlist like someone who knows exactly what they are doing, every transition sharp, every performance precise, but still feeling completely free and spontaneous. That is the contradiction that makes him so special. He looks like he's just vibing, just moving naturally through the music, but every single element of what he's doing is crafted at the highest possible level. The Brazilian crowd was feeling every second of it, singing along in Spanish to songs written in a completely different linguistic tradition from their own, which, when you stop and really think about it, is actually wild. These were people who grew up speaking Portuguese, whose culture is rich and massive and entirely its own thing. And here they were screaming the words to a Puerto Rican artist's songs with so much conviction it would have made you think they had been speaking Spanish their whole lives. Then came the moment that turned an already incredible night into something legendary. He got to the part of the show where he performed the song that has been following him everywhere on this tour, the one that carries so much emotional weight that you can feel it shift the entire atmosphere in a room the second it begins. When those first notes hit, something happened in that São Paulo crowd that nobody was fully prepared for, not even the people who had already seen this happen at other shows on the tour. The entire arena, tens of thousands of people, erupted in a way that went far beyond just singing along. They transformed. They became something unified and enormous and deeply emotional all at once. People were not just performing the words back at the stage, they were weeping, they were holding each other, they were screaming with the kind of intensity that only comes from somewhere real inside a person, not from hype, not from social media training people to act excited, but from genuine feeling that has nowhere else to go but out. And Bad Bunny stood there and took it in. There's a video going around from this moment, footage that people have been sharing non-stop, and if you haven't seen it yet, then you need to stop what you're doing and go find it right now, because what you see in that video is not just a crowd. What you see is a human wave of emotion so powerful that even the man performing seems caught off guard by the emotion. He paused. He looked out at all of those faces and all of those lights from people's phones cutting through the dark, and all of that sound crashing over him like water, and for a moment, you could see it hit him. You could see the artist stop being an artist and just become a person standing in the middle of something extraordinary, trying to process what he was witnessing. That pause meant everything, because it confirmed something that audiences always want to know and rarely ever get confirmed, which is that the person on the stage actually feels it too, that it's not just a performance for them either, that the connection is real and not manufactured, that the emotion runs in both directions, and not just from the crowd to the performer, but back again just as hard. When Bad Bunny looked out at those thousands of Brazilian fans screaming his music back at him in a language that's not even their own, something passed between the stage and the crowd that is almost impossible to put into words, but that everyone in that arena felt at exactly the same moment. The relationship between Bad Bunny and Brazil deserves its own conversation because it's genuinely fascinating. Brazil has one of the most passionate music cultures on the entire planet. This is a country that gave the world samba and bossa nova and baile funk and 1,000 other genres that carry deep cultural DNA in every single note. Brazilian audiences are not easily moved by things that feel shallow or commercial. They have a built-in radar for authenticity, and when something doesn't feel real, they will let you know. But they have embraced Bad Bunny with a warmth and an intensity that tells you they recognize something genuine in what he does. They hear the emotion in the music even across the language barrier. They feel the weight of what he's talking about even when they have to look up the translations. That kind of connection does not happen by accident, and it doesn't happen with artists who are just going through the motions. After that peak moment, the show kept moving forward and somehow kept raising the temperature even higher. He played through songs that covered the full range of his catalog, from the raw, aggressive early material that put him on the map to the more introspective and melodic later work that showed how far he had grown as an artist and as a thinker. Through all of it, the São Paulo crowd never once let the energy drop. They were not the type of crowd that saves their voice for the hits and goes quiet for the deep cuts. They knew everything. They wanted everything. And they gave everything right back without reservation. There were moments during the show where it felt less like a concert and more like a religious gathering. That sounds dramatic, but if you've ever been to something where the music and the crowd and the atmosphere all come together at exactly the right frequency, you know exactly what that feeling is. It's bigger than entertainment. It's bigger than fandom. It touches something in people that most of their daily life never gets close to. That raw, communal feeling of being surrounded by thousands of other human beings who are all feeling the same thing at the same time. That is one of the rarest things in the world, and it happened in São Paulo that night in a way that left everyone breathless. What makes this particularly remarkable is the cross-cultural dimension of it all. Bad Bunny is Puerto Rican. He sings in Spanish. He comes from a specific cultural tradition rooted in the Caribbean and in Latin America in general. And yet here he was in Brazil, which has its own enormous and completely distinct cultural identity, and the connection was total. The language barrier simply ceased to exist for those hours. Music has always had the power to do this, but it doesn't always actually do it. Most of the time, the walls stay up. Most of the time, the distance between cultures remains even in a shared space. But every once in a while, an artist comes along whose work is universal enough and emotionally true enough that those walls just fall. Bad Bunny in São Paulo was one of those moments. By the time the show reached its final stretch, the crowd had been through something together. You could see it on people's faces in the footage, that particular look that people get after an intense collective experience, like they are still processing what just happened, like they are not quite ready to return to normal life, like they are holding on to the feeling for as long as they possibly can before it fades. These were not people who had simply attended a concert. These were people who had been somewhere and come back changed, even if just a little, even if just for that night. Bad Bunny left that stage in São Paulo having confirmed something that his most devoted fans already believed, and that his skeptics are slowly being forced to accept. He is not just the biggest Latin artist in the world right now. He is one of the biggest artists in the world, full stop, without any qualifier, without any asterisk attached to the statement. What he is doing in terms of reaching audiences across cultures and languages and backgrounds is historically significant. And what happened in Brazil that night, that moment when those tens of thousands of voices rose up together and sent something back at the stage that was powerful enough to visibly stop a seasoned performer in his tracks, that was the proof. Not a chart number, not a streaming record, not an industry award. Just a city full of people who felt something so deeply that they could not hold it inside, and an artist who stood there and let it wash over him and felt it right back just as hard. That is what this was. That is what São Paulo gave to the world that night. And if you know, you know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on this story.